Hey, what's up, guys? Sam Smyers here. I wanted to go through vocal chops for tropical house tracks, moombahton tracks, basically any kind of track that uses vocal chops in a drop. So I'm going to use my song So Consumed as an example, and I'm going to play the chorus into the drop real quick so you can hear these vocal chops.
Consumed by you, you are always on my mind, on my mind. It's all over you, yeah, you got me all that night. I'm so consumed. I'm so consumed. Consumed.
So those are the vocal chops. I have two tracks. I have one track that is the main chop, and then another track that is the chops duplicated but at a higher octave, which sounds like that. And then here's the okay. So basically, I pulled these chops off of the lead vocal. It's from the chorus part of the vocal. This is the lead vocal by itself.
My mind, on my mind. Hands all over you, yeah, you got me all damn night. I'm so consumed.
So that's the lead vocal, that's dry. And so what I usually do is I like to just start chopping up parts that I like. I like reversing them, try and create melodies off of the chop parts. And I'll do this a couple times, so I'll have a lot of like different variations of the chops, and then kind of go through and find melodies and figure out which ones that I want to use. And a lot of it's just really like trial and error. You're just trying to make something cool sounding by chopping up the vocal. So basically, the way that I do it, I actually will transpose the note that I'm using whenever I chop it up to whatever note that I want. And in here is kind of what I use to alter the sound of the vocals. And I'll use transpose it to whatever note. I will sometimes use warp on or warp off, depending on whether I want the chop to, if I transpose it up with the warp on, then it will stay the same length. But if I transpose it up or down with the warp off, then it will change length. So for this particular part, I left the warp on, and I think like right on this one, I turned the warp off because I think I wanted the timing probably fit better, a little bit shorter. It looks like I transposed that up. So let me just show you how I kind of did this chop. So this first one, we'll just go through that phrase. That is starting with,
So consumed.
I started working with that little phrase, that so consumed phrase. So I took this so, and I'll use Command E to chop that. And let me just option drag that down to this blank track. I took that so,
So
and then this looks like, sounds like a,
consumed.
looks like I took this part. So I'll go ahead and put that part here. And then it looks like I took this part. And this looks like I took this part. Okay, so let's see what that sounds like.
So consumed.
Yeah, so
So consumed.
yeah, see, I'm just kind of chopping up this phrase and putting them in different places. And and like I said, just kind of like did it with trial and error. Looks like I dragged that, and this is right here. So that is, I believe that is this phrase right here. And that looks like this phrase. Okay, so that's what that sounds like, and it sounds terrible. So now let's start pitching these. So this one I pitched up, transpose it 7 semitones, so I'll pitch that up 7. This one 5, 9, 12. Okay, 5, 9, 12. That should match. Yep. And then this one 7. This one 5 and 4. And for some reason I left the warp off, I think because the timing was probably better. So turn that to 5 semitones, turn the warp off, turn that out a little bit, and this one is 4. Okay, so then that is the melody I came up with, right? And then from there, then I came up with the second part by picking pieces from this first section. So then this next section right here is just using pieces from the first section. So I'm just right now just matching this up. See how that sounds. Okay, that one is different. 5, pitches down 5. Okay, and then this one, this looks like I reversed this phrase right here. So now Ableton 10 allows you to just hit R and then it'll reverse the clip, so that's really convenient. So I just reversed the phrase, and then that one is pitched to up 7 semitones. So let me pitch it down because it was at 9. And then 4, 4. Okay. So this should be the next phrase. So the full phrase is this. And here it is. In the track. Okay, so just from using this little phrase, there were some notes that I liked and phrases, so I just pulled from here and then made a second phrase right here from after I kind of like had these figured out right here that I liked, and I also pulled another phrase from earlier in the course, which was this little piece right here. So I had already pitched that up. Okay, so then now let's go to how to actually like mix this thing. So let me just make sure those are muted, the ones I just created. So these were the ones that were mixing the tracks. Okay. So here it is alone. And so I'm just going to turn everything off and then turn everything back on one by one so we can kind of hear what it is doing to the sound. So first thing I usually do for any kind of vocal, and for a lot of tracks that are not bass, I usually roll off some of the low ends. So you can see here I'm rolling off some of the low end at 170. And then I'll add a compressor to compress, and I have it at a ratio of 3:1, so not using a high ratio, and I'm only knocking off a little bit, so it's not too hardly compressed with this compressor. And what I tend to do is I tend to use multiple stages of compressing. So I have this compressor on, and then I also have this VC76, which is the Native Instruments version of the 1176. And you can also find a version of this in Waves, the CLA 76. And I use this like all the time. I use it on vocals a lot. And so let's see what this is doing. So I'm compressing it a lot heavier on this VC76. I have a moderate attack, slow release, and now I have 2 compressors on it. And once I have the compression, then I added in some EQ. This is a FabFilter Pro Q, and you can see I'm boosting like crazy the highs, taking out some lows around 200. Okay. And then I add the decapitator, which gives the distortion. And let's see what settings I have on the decapitator. Looks like I have this punish on, and I'm using this E style. Drive is up to 6, mixes maybe like 70-80% wet. So I have some dry in there, but a lot of distortion on this vocal chop. And then CLA vocals, they kind of add that secret sauce to vocals, or any kind of, I don't know, you can use them for anything really, if you want to add a lot of sparkle to the top end. So what I have on right now, I have the treble on, and I'm using the compress at push, and also some stereo spread to this chop. So I can hear before it's bland sounding, and once I put on that CLA vocal, then it sparkles it up and gives a little bit of stereo spread, and adds a little bit more compression on it. This compressor right here I'm using as a sidechain because I think I have, during the bridge at some point in the song, I have the lead vocal going on top of these vocal chops, and I didn't want the vocal chops to clash too much with that bridge vocal. And so a way to do that, and a way to handle mixing background vocals with a lead vocal, is sometimes you can use a sidechain to sidechain those backgrounds to that lead vocal, so they're going down under that lead vocal and creating room and space for that lead vocal. So this is audio from Bridge MLD. That's like a bridge vocal in my song. And since I'm boosting a lot of the high end, I put on a de-esser because there's a S sound in these chops that I wanted to bring down. And so I just hit this audition right here, and that just shows you that S sound that I'm focusing on. This is FabFilter's Pro DS, which is a de-esser that I use a lot. And so after I add that DS, then is when I start adding the effects, like the reverb and the delay. So let's just hear that dry in the track right now. So now what we want to do is we want to fit into the mix and make it not so dry sounding and uninteresting. And what I usually do in place of using sends or bus tracks, is I'll create a audio effect rack with my effects, like my reverb and my delays. And I'll also have a dry chain, which I don't touch. So as you can see here, I have a dry chain, which is just taking everything before this audio effect rack and then pushing that forward with no effects. Right, so that's not changing anything before. And then whenever I have these chains with the reverb and delay, I can set these at 100% wet, the mix 100% wet, and then mix it in using this mix right here, this mixer right here. So for my reverb, I'm using the Valhalla, vintage Valhalla, however you pronounce it, vintage verb. And this is a really cool reverb that I've been using a lot, and it's relatively affordable. And you can set like the color, 1970s, 1980s. There's a bunch of different presets, and let's just hear what I have on the dry track with the reverb. So already with that reverb, we can hear a pretty big difference. And I also added a delay, and this delay here, it looks like the echo delay, which is the stock delay that comes with Ableton. So it sounds almost like it's called, I guess I must have used the slapback preset, but then changed it to a 8th note delay. Okay, and then this doesn't seem like I must have had some other echo and didn't like it, so I'm not using it. So all that I have now is I have the clean signal, I have the reverb signal, and I have the delay signal. And then this right here, I have this bypass, so I haven't even used it, this filter freak. So that's what it sounds like all together. And now that we went through this whole chain, let me turn on these CLA vocals. So let's go through how everything sounds together in the track. So that's how I did the vocal chops for my song So Consumed. And if you have any questions, comment below. And if you like the video, please like and subscribe. Thanks a lot. This is Sam Smyers.